I really hope you've enjoyed these Mountain Memories videos here on Manx Radio and joining it live on our Facebook feed. Looking over my shoulder, this one here over there is towards the Calf of Man. Just behind me there is Port St Mary, and we're stood at Pool Vash, a beautiful part of the island, and let's hope we see you back here for 2021. Take care, stay safe. I think one of the most consistent teams over the past 2008, so let's work that out, 10, 12 years at the Isle of Man TT and further afield on the short circuits will be the Bournemouth Kawasaki team. And the boss of the team, Peter Extance, joins us live from his shop. Good afternoon to you, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good afternoon to you guys and good afternoon, Isle of Man. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Bournemouth. So hopefully you guys have got the same. And hopefully, I know your lockdown is slightly different to ours, but let's hope that you can get out a little bit and enjoy the environment.
Have you always been interested in bikes? Why set a bike shop up? What was your background?
Yeah, so a little bit of a strange one. If we've got time and everyone's not too bored, I was born in Southampton. 2 months later, my father got a job at Rolls-Royce in Derby, and we hot-tailed it up to Derby. And my dad was always into bikes. He rode Southern Centre scrambling, not motocross, scrambling in those days. And we enjoyed going to watch grass track. My dad only had a bike license, so off we went in a Robin Reliant because that's all he could drive. And myself and Mick Extance, a lot of people know Mick. He's got his own off-road schools. He's done Dakars and everything else. And we went off doing trials riding, national trials. So up and down the country, Robin Reliant with a homemade trailer on the back, with his old Bull Taco and Fantix, and that's where it all started. And the love of motorcycling never went away. So unfortunately, my dad passed away in 2000. That's roughly 2 years into having my own motorcycle dealership. Prior to that, I worked at Crescent Suzuki, so a very well-known dealership. 95, I left there, set my own little shop up in Bournemouth. 97, we became off-road dealers. 98, road bike dealers. And then literally James's dad came in the dealership one day and said, my son's going to ride for Gearlink. 2003, I believe it was. Would you sponsor him? And we got involved a little bit, moved away from motocross. And I think they can say the rest is a little bit of history. You know, we know James dabbled at the Isle of Man in 2009, 2008 or 2009. I think Jamie Robinson was another newcomer that year. And then we went with Build Base. We ran Build Base Bournemouth, Kawasaki in the British Championship. James Hillier and Alex Camia were our riders then. And then we moved on to Luke Stapleford. And we've stuck with James ever since. 2010 was the first year we went there with green bikes, Bournemouth Kawasaki bikes. And wow, what a story it's been since then. It's in a very, very addictive drug is your island, Chris.
Well, I've got to talk about this place. I mean, what did you know about the Isle of Man before you decided to bring your team here? What did you know about the place? Had you been here before that?
Well, that's, yes. So it's very, almost quite a sad story. So I've only ever been to the Isle of Man before 2010 on one occasion. It was in 2003. And we arrived on the island in the morning. And we positioned ourselves down at the Crosby Crossroads there opposite the post office.
All right.
And you know the rest of the story, Chris. We saw three practice laps, I believe, or two practice laps, and up to the left of us was catastrophic incident. And that really did put me off, to be honest with you. We were only over there for practice week. We went home. And it wasn't for, all those years after that we came back with James. And those thoughts are always with us, aren't they? With all those, tremendous riders, with all the riders that have had fatalities. But yeah, it was a baptism of fire. But it certainly got the juices flowing. And those days when we just stood there and watched the practice sessions in the morning or in early mornings as well. Then
it was then, yeah.
Ever dreamt that we would be back there with such a phenomenal rider, great team, and having a TT win under our belt. Amazing, just amazing.
A TT win and some fantastic performances by James, who we'll touch on it again a little bit later on in the interview. And he's kind of made your team go. Him and Phil have got such a good partnership. Phil Higgs, who's your crew chief.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a little story with Phil as well. In 95, when we opened our little dealership after I've left Crescent, Phil turned up on his DT50 and came and bought a jacket from me. That was his first bike he'd ever had. He'd just done his CBT training, and I've employed him since that day. So since the day he left school, he's been with me at Bournemouth Kawasaki, and he's been a massive part of it for sure. Not so much with BSB, and early days with BSB, but when the team grew so big we couldn't manage it from Bournemouth Kawasaki, the BSB team moved away to Ray Stringer's workshop and then to FW in Preston. But the TT in the Northwest has always stayed in-house here. We can walk through to the workshop and see the bikes. Phil's always been a massive part of it. And the day that Phil decided that he wasn't going to go racing for 2020 was very, very difficult. And what happened was James had sort of made noises that he was going to move away. You know, we welcome that. It had been a long, long time, and James wanted to know what it was like to ride something else. Phil decided that was probably the time that he might hang his overalls up rather than his levers, and that was it really, until a certain Mr. McGuinness phoned, and our ears pricked up. We decided that John, along with Alistair Seeley, would make a great roads team, and yeah, that was the appetite that drew us all back in again.
Got to ask you about James. I mean, the performances he did for you all the way through, and I know James quite well, and we always have a chat off and stuff, but certainly, you know, he's a bit of a laugh and a joke. You boys all have a good bit of banter. When he first won that lightweight TT, I mean, you and Julie and the team, explain that feeling, what it was like to finally get your hands on one of those silver ladies.
Oh, that's a really difficult one, Chris. You know, every year we've been, or most years we've been privileged to be able to run from the Parc Fermé along the grandstand into the top three enclosure, and just to do that is an amazing experience. Going down there, you can still hear the bikes crossing the line, and sometimes you don't know if he's second or third, and in some cases we ran down there and Bruce Anstey pipped us by the thousandths of a second in the senior in 2013. So it is an amazing experience, but to think back and see that trophy and James up on there with the scouts and the music, the national anthem, what an amazing experience. You know, that it can only be similar to the day that Leon held the British Superbike Championship, but almost in a different way, because the TT is so special. We all know what the track's like and what the bikes have to be like, how well they have to be maintained, and it is an amazing experience. Myself and James left the TT that year after having an incredible year, but we actually instead of turning right off the ferry to Bournemouth, we turned left, and we went to the Lake District, and we camped out, and we went to a few places around, and we just took it all in, and we had a little go on a little paddle steamer around the lake at Lake District, and we just laughed at each other and said, wow, what happened there? That was absolutely incredible. So big memories, but I'm desperate to get that slightly bigger trophy, Chris. I really am.
And you've got the man in the case to do it. I'm just looking at the stats on here. I mean, 58-ish starts and only failing to finish a couple of times. I mean, that's pretty good reliability from your boys in the back room, isn't it?
It certainly is. And two of those, one was I think it was 2012, where the wind really picked up during the race, and James just misjudged the corner at the Craig and just hit the safety barrier. So perfectly safe and fine, no problem at all. And then 2018 was that terrible little mishap at Bagaro, where the bike bottomed out, and that could have been a lot worse. So, you know, we really thank the marshals and everybody else, and that everybody was safe through there, especially the riders right behind him. And then I think we had a silly situation with a fuel cap come off, and that's almost it. 4 DNFs, 58 starts. It's credit to James, but even this circumstance, even more credit to Phil Biggs and his team that he puts around him, because he prepares an amazing bike. And I would hope that 15, 18 years in a Kawasaki dealership, where you have to use that sort of skills on customers' road bikes, because equally they're riding on the road all the time. That's what gives him that little edge, and he's such a perfectionist.
When you're not at the paddock and you're not doing the corporate thing with Kawasaki, etc., do you like to go around the island while you're here? Where's your favourite spot to go, just to go away with the missus or whoever, family, friends, whatever, and just chill? Anywhere particular?
Yeah, I think really for me, up at the bungalow is pretty special. You can have a nice wander around and things like that. But it's a conversation I had with a customer only a few days ago that from the moment I arrive on the island to the moment I leave, I'm not sure I even leave the paddock area. I have a specific spot that I stand with. There's a little shed in the Parc Ferme area that's got a timing screen on it. And it's just where the dyno is. And I usually slot myself in there. There's usually a gate, so I can climb up onto the wall and just watch the guys coming in and out of pit lane. And that's where I've always been, generally with Martin Hillier. We usually stand there together. And we let the boys do all their hard work, because running up and down with wheels and changing visors and things like that is probably not what I could do particularly well. So that's really where I position myself. But wouldn't it? I'd love to go there and, you know, stand down at the Kawasaki call it the secret garden at Aggo's Leap and things like that. I would like to get out there, but I do feel that whilst James is on circuit, that I need to be within the vicinity of the paddock area, and it's just something that I feel I need to do, and I always will. Whilst a rider is riding for Bournemouth Kawasaki, not necessarily just James, but any rider who's on track, I need to be around that area.
Was it a wrench to see him go? I know it's a tough question to ask. You've got the top man in his position, but was it a wrench? Because he was like a kid to you, like a son to you, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a wrench, but I didn't try and stop him. I've always tried to stop him in before. In the early years, Honda approached him and various things, and we always counter offered the deal. And I know he wanted to stay, and I also agree he has to up his profile and up his wage and things like that. And that's fine. And, you know, everybody wants to do that. And I always tried to stop him. But this year, because we agreed to stop BSB, I thought this is the year. If we're going to do it, let's let James go with our blessing. He's gone to a good team. You know, they've proven themselves in BSB. I'm sure they're going to take a few years to prove themselves on the roads. DJ's, you know, a very good rider, and James is very methodical, very particular. I'm sure they'll give him what he needs, and you know, he is part of our family. If you could see some of the times we've been out for a Christmas party and he's been back at my house, led on workshops and things like that, you would laugh. So great family, and I'm not sure there'll be any other team that's had a rider for as long as we've had and kept the same relationship. I mean, that little lightweight, Chris, 5 years at the TT, the same bike, never worse than second place. You know, and we've got that bike just sat here. What an amazing story.
Well, a new story starts now with a man who's won the TT 23 times, and a good chap. And do you know what? I interviewed him just before we had all the lockdown. We had a charity night over here on the Arm. He came over and he flew over, and he just really done the deal with you guys. And he was excited. And do you know what? He was keen for it. He was up for him, and Connor had a bit of a chat, and it was really good fun to see him on really, really positive form again. How did it all come about? Who called who? Who touched each other's shoulders? Who emailed? Oh, he doesn't email, does he? Who got in touch with who?
Yeah, so John contacted me last year about riding 600 alongside James, and we only had one 600, so we couldn't do it. And it wasn't really till about, I think it was late November, that I just contacted him and said, look, James is going or gone. What's your situation? And we had a little chat, and we sort of started throwing a few ideas around between us. And eventually I got in my pickup. It was a few days before Christmas, and I just drove from Bournemouth up to John's house.
As you do.
As you do. Knocked on his door, and what an amazing, welcoming gentleman that he is, and Rebecca and the kids. We spent more time bombing around his fantastic house and land, and he was showing me his bikes and his collection, and we had a ride around on his mule, and he just loves life and motorcycle racing. And I don't get starstruck, but I was slightly nervous about going to meet John, because all through our TT career, John has been the man and still is the man. And to go there and sit on his settee and talk about joining Bournemouth Kawasaki just incredible. And it really was only a few hours after I arrived home and John messaged and said, Pete, I really like the feel of this. I'm in. And what we did, we kept it under wraps for a reasonable amount of time because Kawasaki were having a dealer conference for all their dealers in Coventry. So we kept it really quiet. We did the dealer conference through the day, and then we brought John onto the stage, and all the dealers were like, wow, what's John McGuinness doing here? Wow. And we introduced him as the new Bournemouth Kawasaki TT rider, and what a reception he got. And he did a great speech, and boy, he knows how to speak and woo the crowd. Absolutely fantastic. We did a similar thing at the dealership here as well. John came over February the 28th, I think it was. We spent the evening here, and the place was rammed, absolutely rammed. And so he literally arrived a bit early. He went to see Phil in the workshop. They ran through all the bikes, and he was on form. We had a great evening.